Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams. Daniel, good to see you.
How are you this morning, Dr. Paul?
I'm doing fine, ready and raring to go to straighten out all the problems of the world.
Exactly.
Or at least identify them and make a suggestion. That we can do, at least. So, but today, in the news, and it's big news, is whether Trump is legitimately allowed to, fire people that have clearances. Is he doing it for just political reasons? And of course, there's a lot of lying been going on, and he's saying these former agents and FBI agents and CIA agents in the security, they're out, but they still have security clearances, and sometimes they use it for their own benefit. They get jobs on TV, and they get to work for the weapons industry. So there's a lot of advantage. And then some of them get involved in politics too. And some of them tell lies. Can you imagine that? They get caught in lies. And the Trump's position seems to be that, if you have it, you're out, you have a clearance. He's not saying that nobody deserves a clearance. Some people have it. But if you're lying about it, and you're getting involved in politics and you're directing all your lies to me, why shouldn't I fire you and take away your clearances? Why should we just, keep it? He's already set that in motion. Two people, we fired McCabe and Comey. Mm-hmm. He fired them. I mean, he says, why am I going to let you have clearance? So I guess he's saying that, even though you haven't been fired, you're out of office, but you're abusing, the privilege of having secret clearance. And I guess there was a time when, a retired person had some abilities, and knowing what was going on might be an advisor to the president or something along those lines. But it looks to me like they overstepped the bounds. And when you think about some of the people they're talking about now, like Brennan and Rice and Clapper, these people have been caught in lies, and they are so strong partisans, and they've been super involved. So I have no problem with him taking their clearances away with it. But what if the Democrats come in? Just like the cake issue, it's a freedom of speech issue, and you can't deny freedom of speech, this sort of thing. But he is saying, the left is saying that if he fires them or takes away their clearance, that means they don't have access to this secret information that they sell and become commentators on their station. Now that is a stretch about the First Amendment.
Yeah, and it's really a fascinating issue because as the news reported, and I actually saw the tweet yesterday morning, Senator Paul, a fellow we may know from Kentucky, he tweeted out that he's going to go visit with the president yesterday, Monday, and he's going to recommend that John Brennan and a few others have their security clearances pooled because, as he asked, are they monetizing these security clearances? Which, of course, it is the case. There is a monetary value to having, especially the level of clearance that these senior intelligence officers would have, the code words that they know, we'd get shot if we even saw them. So they have these very high clearances. Are they monetizing? Are they selling them to, as you say, to the networks? Hey, I've got an insider access. Are they selling some of them to security, military industrial complex? These retaining your clearances was a courtesy that had been extended to senior intelligence officers after they retired. But let's not forget that the issuance and retention of security clearances are solely at the discretion of the executive branch. The head of the executive branch is the President of the United States, so he has full discretion. It's something that cannot be denied or cannot be changed, and so he has perfect right to take a look at these clearances?
Well, for me, it gets much more complicated because I describe, and generally speaking, that maybe in this day and age there's some legitimate reason to have the security, a reason to advise, because it's a big world and a lot of globalism going on, and we have a lot of things to think about. But when you consider what these agencies are involved in, if there needs to be some secrets, I would guess that about 90% of what they're working on and spying on, hey, there's no need for it. I mean, it is, NSA spying on Americans, and it becomes political. And this is a big issue. This is a political issue. It has nothing to do with the principle of having a clearance. It's just how you use it and whether a liar can keep of it. I was in the Air Force. I had top secret clearance. You've had it, and I've had it when I was a congressman.
Yeah.
But the only reason I can think of, a good reason, not that I have any need for all that secrecy, but boy, if I had it, maybe I could get on an airplane a little faster. But no, these guys are still getting on. Now that's the reason for resentment. They get to go in the fast line.
And you look at, the problem of overclassification, we could do another show on it really, because it is a real issue. And a lot of it's covering your rear end by classifying things up that no one can see them. But when you have someone like John Brennan, as a courtesy, he retains his security clearance, which gives him a higher level of marketability to media outlets and such. When he calls the president a traitor, he literally said the president is a traitor for meeting with Putin, then you can hardly wonder why he might be coming under some scrutiny and where the courtesy of having a clearance might be looked at. But you sort of touched on it before, and I was trying to think of, why might senior officials legitimately retain their clearances after they retire. And theoretically, someone with a lot of experience, decades of experience, who is not over-politicized, like Brennan, Clapper, and these others, who the CIA, after he leaves, may come across a problem. They may want to consult with him on maybe he's had a lot of experience in Afghanistan or what have you, and they may want to bring him back to consult and read him into something that requires a higher level of clearance without going through the whole process of re-clearing him. So in that theoretical sort of situation, you can understand why they retain the clearances. This seems to me to be something very different.
Well, it to me raises a question about this controversy going on now about Carter Page. There was a FISA warrant issued, and the question was that legitimately done? Was it pure politics? And what should the ramifications be there if somebody was involved and it was just absolute pure politics on this? I think that is a serious matter. I mean, I've never doubted for a minute that the secrets of government, the FBI, hasn't always been political. J. Edgar Hoover, he started the FBI, and he always had stuff on the politician. So that's why, the secrecy in government to me is the big problem, how to handle it. I do recognize that, certainly during a period of time like World War II, you don't want the enemy, which was a pretty vicious enemy, to know everything you're going to do and it's on in the news. But then again, do they have to know everything that we do, everything that we every activity? And it's massive. Every financial, everything about medicine. There is no privacy, and all of a sudden, people have access to this. No, John Brennan doesn't care about my medical record, but he cares about the military. And just think of the $1 trillion being spent on national security. These guys have a lot of information they can sell, and they can be advisors to these companies. They can be on TV, or they can be very political. It looks like there's value in knowing what's going on politically. So I think part of the problem is the fact that they have way too much information and ability to sell their information. It shouldn't be so valuable, and that's a reflection of the system we have.
Yeah, and just before we move to Carter Page, because I think it's kind of related, and we'll explain how, hopefully in a minute. But back to addressing the issue of free speech, because the Trump's detractors who are unhappy with him pondering revoking the security clearances are saying, well, you're attacking his First Amendment rights. Brennan's First Amendment rights. But that doesn't make sense logically, because the only reason you would have security clearances is to access classified information. If you have access to classified information, according to your non-disclosure agreement, you can't reveal it anyway. So it's not an issue of First Amendment rights, because you have no First Amendment rights when it comes to disclosing classified information. So it's completely ridiculous to suggest it. But moving to Page, and we kind of put these two together as a sort of a mishmash, because they both tell us a little bit about how the intelligence community is being used for nefarious purposes. And with the Page, as we just found out over the weekend when they released the FBI's FISA application, we want to go spy on this guy, Carter Page. He is a volunteer with the Trump campaign, which of course by doing that means you can spy on the whole campaign because we think he's a Russian agent. And so when we look at what the FBI used to justify it, it looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. There's a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, and I think we'll know more, maybe not immediately, exactly who was guilty of what, but it's very, very messy. And I think that individuals like that, I know Trump wouldn't approach it quite the way we do, and he may be a little more political about it. But if Brenner and these other guys are telling lies, and they happen to be politically directed toward trying to destroy Trump, and I can see that you can make a pretty strong case for this when you look at RussiaGate and you know, the evidence now to show that you know, all the effort to set up the Trump campaign, not the administration. At the same time protecting and using the Clintons and the Clinton administration that was going to exonerate everybody and nobody would be guilty of anything. But now it's a much messier for them because I think they're many on the other side are being caught in telling a few lies, and fortunately lying is still not acceptable. It's especially not acceptable. You know, I think that this be good. This would be a good example to set. There's a limit to even the government officials lying, but you know, if you're involved in any type of litigation, if you ever get caught, even this type of a lie or a misunderstanding or misinformation to an FBI agent, you can go to prison. Martha Stewart, you know, didn't give the right information; she suffered the consequence. Or if you misinformation, not even an outright lie, but governments a notorious lie to us. So I think what we're looking at is not, oh, wow, I never dreamed this could happen. What about the way they lie us into war? And it's security people that do this. Our FBI, our CIA, the whole mess. They all, in order to direct the people and to get this $1 trillion to spend in the military-industrial complex. So the issue of lying is important, but this is just barely touching on the big issue of lying. And I don't think we'll cure the world of the people of never lying, but I think what we should be able to do is reduce the amount of power governments have so that the lies couldn't be quite so damaging and the lies couldn't drive us into war. And then, of course, I think we need a few more principled people in Washington that might not listen to the lies and sending us off to war and doing all these things based on lies.
Yeah, exactly. We might not accuse outright the FBI of lying in its FISA application, but I think we can certainly accuse it of misrepresenting the evidence that they presented to the FISA court. Because the evidence they presented to the FISA court suggesting that Carter Page is a Russian agent, that evidence came from the Steele dossier, which was opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton. They didn't reveal to the FISA court, hey, Hillary was digging up a bunch of dirt on Trump, and here's what she came up with. Can we spy on this guy and spy on the whole Trump campaign? They didn't reveal that. They held that back because they wanted to assert that he was a Russian agent so they could spy on him. But, you know, what is an agent of a foreign power? That's what they say. He's an agent of a foreign power. He was a guy who lived in Russia for a couple of years, tried to do business, tried to scratch out a living over there, maybe met a couple of Russian officials and had chats with them. There's nothing unusual about that. There are literally thousands of Americans who live and work overseas that do the exact same thing. There's nothing nefarious about it. It's like we're moving to a period, Dr. Paul, in America, where if you simply talk to a foreigner, you're suspected of being an agent. It's like we're becoming North Korea. If you go overseas and talk to some official, have a coffee with a government official, and come home, you're going to go off to the gulag.
Yeah, to me, that's a reaction, a reflection of what people do when they're maintaining an empire. They figure, oh, this is justifiable. You know, we have to maintain order, and these kind of conditions occur. So I think that this whole thing isn't going to go away. I think it's going to continue. I don't think we'll resolve it, but there's going to be a lot of ramifications if every one of those guys lose their security clearance, and a lot of noise made. But quite frankly, I don't think I want to participate in one of our programs here if Brenner's and Clapper's security clearance is removed tomorrow and raise a lot of cane about it. I might not argue that, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of politics involved, but I think it's clear evidence that they have abused what they have done, and the evidence is out there. It isn't like everybody says that they're honorable citizens, except the people on his side, politically speaking.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think if we're ready to wind it down, I would just say a quick update for our viewers, and we want to thank you very much for being our viewers. But we got the very, very happy news the last couple of days that we've crossed 140,000 subscribers to the Ron Paul Liberty Report YouTube channel. And so thank you for subscribing. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit subscribe. Get your friends and relatives and enemies and anyone you want to subscribe as well. And hear a little bit of different news. The other update would be simply about our conference, August 18th, Washington, D.C. Dr. Paul, some good news. I had allotted a certain amount of tickets to be early bird special and to pass some savings on. Unfortunately, we hit the top peak of that. No more early birds were left. I released a few more early bird special rate tickets. So save a little bit of money, get in early, get your ticket while you can. RonPaulInstitute.org/conference. A lot of great speakers, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and so many others. So we're looking forward to seeing you then.
Very good, and I too am anxious to see a lot of you there at the conference and looking forward to it. In closing, I would like to say that for me, it's summarizing, the principle of the rule of law, and our founders attempted to give us some guidance there and gave us a Fourth Amendment, which is totally ignored. So whether it's banking privacy, whether it's medical privacy, whether it's national security privacy, our personal privacy, the collection of data, on and on. If you just follow the Fourth Amendment, we wouldn't have this. But where we are now is we are locked in on this almost obsession with the answer to every problem we have is more government, more spending, more debt. And even today, even with a conservative administration, we see that the answer to one problem is spend more money, whether it's in the military or domestically. And that doesn't work. It just means the government gets bigger and bigger. It means to operate it and manage it well, you have to sacrifice a little bit of your freedoms. And I can't help but remember very clearly of people coming to me after 9/11. Ron, you got to understand, you got to give up your freedoms to be safe and secure. Well, I feel a lot better if somebody would defend my liberties. Then I would feel a lot safer and more secure. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.